Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. Today is an extraordinarily important conversation and press conference that we're talking about the second most important thing in the state of Nebraska. We all agree. First is it's our people. The people in Nebraska are extraordinary. The second thing is our water. Water is absolutely everything. I think it's worth spending a couple minutes so that we're all on the same page of understanding what has taken place in the state of Nebraska in my lifetime when it comes to water is absolutely unprecedented anywhere in the world. If you think back when our state was founded, many said we were the dry desert plains and that there would be no way to raise crops in Nebraska. That corn could only be raised between the rivers, between the Missouri and the Mississippi, where there's dark soil and it rains all the time. God graced us with the extraordinary Ogallala Aquifer, which, just so we're all on the same page, is the largest, most sustainable underground reservoir in the Western Hemisphere. Really proud of the work that Jesse and Matt in the Department of Water, Energy, Environment is doing to make sure that we protect our aquifer by the quantity and that we improve our water quality. But I think what's really important for today is every drop of water matters, and it's really important that we stand up for Nebraska and for the people in Nebraska. And so it's really simple. Agriculture has been transformed. Today we irrigate 11 million acres. Nebraska agriculture feeds the world and saves the planet doing it. Nobody can raise as much per acre as we do in Nebraska. Not anywhere where the soil is dark all the way down and it rains. Because of the technology and because of irrigation, it has transformed agriculture, livestock feeding, and the impact we have. Just 2 mornings ago, I had breakfast with the ambassador of Japan. He came in from DC, and so incredibly grateful the impact Nebraska has on helping Japan feed their families. So it's really important that we protect every drop, and we're here to talk today about the Perkins Canal. And there's a couple things I think are really important that I want to cover, and then I'll turn it over. But, you know, the South Platte River Compact was signed by Nebraska and Colorado in 1923, and it was ratified by the Congress in 1926. That makes it a very unique structure, and it was approved interstate compact, and it's treated as a contract, a state law and a federal law. It's really important that all of us understand that. It is crystal clear. It's crystal clear. Colorado's been holding water back from Nebraska for almost 100 years and getting more and more egregious every single day. I'm really grateful to Attorney General Hilgers and his team. Grateful to the work that Jesse Bradley and Matt Manning have done, and a bunch of stakeholders that are here that have been working on this project for 25 plus years. The last 2 years, we've been working. We've been Nebraska nice. We've been working with Colorado. Many of us have been there. We've been in Colorado meeting farmers who are supportive, who are on the team, who no problem, we'll sell our land, and then all of a sudden the state steps in. The state of Colorado steps in with a different format. So today it's really simple. We're here to put our gloves on. We're going to fight like heck. We're going to get every drop of water. It's really important, and the Attorney General Hilgers and his team are going to put everything on the deck for Nebraska and take it to the United States Supreme Court. We're not going to any other courts. We're going to the United States Supreme Court. We've been losing to Colorado in this issue for too long. It's time we win, and that's where we're going to do it at the United States Supreme Court. I think that, you know, the other thing that's really important for everybody to understand is Colorado's ongoing water development, they want it all. They have no interest in anything being fair and just. They want absolutely everything. They're even stealing the water from their own farmers, for crying out loud. They are going to continue to develop the upstream economy at the expense of Colorado farmers and Nebraska farmers, and I might also say the city of Lincoln. This project's gigantic for the city of Lincoln because that'll be about 12% of the water as it flows from the Perkins Canal. So when some say this is just a western Nebraska, panhandle, whatever, that couldn't be further from truth. This is a Nebraska issue from the river out to Harrison. And I couldn't be more proud of the people behind me and all the work that they've done. And with that, I want to turn it over to Attorney General Hilgers and give us a little more.
As we speak, Nebraska is filing with the United States Supreme Court an original action suing the state of Colorado over the Perkins County Canal, over the Nebraska-Colorado 1923 compact. Before I tell you a little bit of the background as to what we're doing and why we're doing it, I do want to give a really gigantic thank you to Governor Pillen, to his team. Since we started this process, they have been locked arms with us. They understand the importance, and they've given us nothing but all the support that they could give us and all the support that we need to be successful. I also want to thank Director Bradley and his team. They've been great teammates, as well as all of the gentlemen here and all of the agencies that they represent. Truly, in the western part of the state, they are on the front line seeing the impact of Colorado's violation of the 1923 compact, and they've been nothing but supportive for the work that we've done so far, and I know that they will be supportive for the work that we have going ahead. So what I'd like to do is just give you a little bit of context. Some of you have reported pretty heavily on this. Some of you maybe haven't thought about it in 4 or 5 months. So I think it's important for Nebraskans to understand what it is we're doing and why we're doing it, because I think this may be the most consequential lawsuit that this office will be a part of in my generation. It is almost impossible to overstate the importance of the South Platte River to the future of the state of Nebraska. So to just give you a brief history lesson, I promise I won't go over 100 years of history over this compact, but before the compact was signed, before 1923, Nebraska actually had rights. I think this is important for Nebraskans to understand. We had the right, as Nebraskans, to be able to assert our senior water rights over junior users in Colorado. What that means is, before the compact was executed, we actually could shut down junior users in the state of Colorado. It's a bad thing for those users, something that the state of Colorado didn't like, and they negotiated with the state of Nebraska so that Nebraska would give up that right. It's a very powerful, very valuable right. We gave it up in 1923 in exchange for 2 significant promises. The first promise is that Nebraska would get 120 cubic feet per second of flow from the South Platte River during the summertime season, from April to October. That was promise number 1. Promise number 2 was, if Nebraska were to build the Perkins County Canal, what we know as the Perkins County Canal, that we would get an additional at least 500 cubic feet per second in the non-irrigated season. This is an enormous quantity of water, and it is hard to overstate the impact, not just of the western part of the state and agriculture, our most important industry, but throughout the state of Nebraska today, including Lincoln, as the governor mentioned, including industry, our ability to grow, second most important resource, and truly our ability to grow as a community and as a state will be restricted, if not devastated, if we lose access to this water. But also, this is a compact that ultimately was agreed to in 1923 that exists in perpetuity. So we could take a 50-year time horizon, and that would not be long enough. Truly, as long as there's a state of Nebraska and there's a state of Colorado and there's a South Platte River, this compact will matter, and enforcing our rights under the compact will matter. So Colorado gave us these 2 very important rights. Now I'm going to fast forward 90 years, and about 10 years ago or so, plus or minus, the state of Colorado was undergoing a rapid expansion in the Front Range. You know the population growth that's going on there. The state of Colorado was aggressively pursuing water from the South Platte River in ways that we knew were harming Nebraska and would absolutely harm Nebraska going forward. We would lose not the entitlement to the water, but we would lose the water to which we're entitled if Colorado's growth was unchecked and we didn't assert our rights. So 3 years ago in 2022, when I was Speaker of the Legislature, working with then Governor Ricketts, we passed the initial bill to support the initial phase of the Perkins County Canal construction, which was approved by the legislature and gave us the funds to do the first phase. Phase 2 was approved under Governor Pillen's leadership in 2023. That was when the legislature provided the funding to build the Perkins County Canal. Now, I want to tell you 3 sort of work streams that happened from 2023 to today, because one of the questions you might ask is, why didn't you sue 2.5 years or 2 years ago? And I want to tell you 3 different work streams that we have been working under that have sort of culminated to this moment, very briefly. And then after that, I'll just tell you what the going forward is, and I'll hand it over to Director Bradley. The first work stream is the design of the canal. That's under Director Bradley's leadership. They've been working on the design. As part of that work, they had to identify the very specific parcels that we potentially could purchase. There was indications that the governor mentioned that some of the landowners, maybe all of the landowners, actually had a desire to sell to Nebraska. And we owe a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of this state to explore every avenue to be able to build this canal as cheaply and as inexpensively and as quickly as possible. So the work of the design and the land acquisition process, there's been public reporting on this, went all the way till about April, May of this year. We sent out offers. Some of those landowners who said that they were interested in selling have decided to change their mind, and those landowners, instead of actually being interested in selling, now all have expressed a very public desire to fight Nebraska in eminent domain proceedings in Colorado. That was the first phase, sort of just culminated just within the last 2 months. The second phase, along with designing the canal, there was significant hydrological work that went along with the design of the canal, understanding the size of the canal, the impact, how we were going to put the canal together. As part of that, we started to better understand actually the breach of the compact for the summertime flows. Whenever we talk about the South Platte River, I think over the last 2 years, we've been almost exclusively talking about the canal. That's an important part. If we don't build the canal, we don't have a right to the wintertime flows. What we haven't talked as much about is the impact of the lack of water that we are entitled to today during the summertime. The work through the design and Director Bradley's team that they did on the hydrology started to give us more sense and scope and be able to quantify a little bit better really the degree of the breach from Colorado. And just to give you some sense of what we think from a conservative basis, we think that we have lost out on over 1 million acre-feet of water during the summertime. So put aside the Perkins County Canal itself during the summertime, not just in the last year, over a period of time. That's a significant amount of water that has an enormous amount of value. Just that water alone is valued conservatively in the 9 or 10 figures, potentially over $1 billion, depending on how you measure it. So that's the second work stream. That also sort of has culminated very recently. And the third is the conversations that I've had and my team has had with our counterparts in the Colorado Attorney General's office. We've had a number of productive conversations over the last 1.5 years to try to narrow the issues of dispute between Nebraska and Colorado, to try to understand their legal position, to see if there's a way going forward where we could reach an agreement. And it became clear, despite the very professional and intentional scope of those negotiations, that we were at an impasse. And let me just give you 2 examples of things that we disagree on, that we could not move forward on actually building the canal without resolution. And these are issues that only the United States Supreme Court can address and resolve. The first one is the scope of the eminent domain right. We don't think there's any other compact in the history of the United States, and there might be one, so I don't want to say this definitively, but we are not aware of any other compact that gives one state, in this case Nebraska, the right of eminent domain in another state, in this case Colorado. The 1923 compact gave Nebraska that right. There's a threshold question. Where do we exercise that right if we have to exercise eminent domain? Do we do it in federal court in Colorado? Do we do it in water court in Colorado? Do we do it in state court? There's a disagreement between Nebraska and Colorado as to even where to start enforcing our rights under the compact. Another example is the size of the canal. We think that the canal gives us entitlement to at least over 500 cubic feet per second. They think that's not a floor, but that's a ceiling. That impacts the size of the canal. We can't build a canal without that having been resolved. There are other issues that we've identified from those discussions with Colorado. It's helped crystallize the issues that will be before the United States Supreme Court, but it made very clear that the next step to defend Nebraska's rights under the 1923 compact is by filing this lawsuit with the highest court in the land, who has the authority, the only court that has the authority and the ability to resolve these particular issues between 2 sovereign states. Going forward, here's what, to give you some sense of what to expect. I'm sure we'll get some questions on this. The United States Supreme Court process isn't fast, but I will tell you, when we're talking about a compact that will last for hundreds of years, whether it takes an extra year or not, I think will, in the grand scheme, not matter as much as to whether or not we are enforcing the rights under the compact. That is the critical question, whether we do or not precisely how long the Supreme Court will take. Having said that, we anticipate that the Supreme Court will pick up this case. We'll probably have a special master appointed within the next 12 months, and under normal litigation timelines, that's maybe 3 to 5 years before we get a result. I think an important thing to emphasize, which Director Bradley I think will talk about, is that this does not operate sequentially with the other aspects of permitting and design. In other words, we don't all have to sit here and wait until the Supreme Court addresses these questions for a lot of the other necessary work that has to be done in order to continue with this process when you're doing something relating to an interstate river is itself completed. So let me end where I started, which is a big thank you to the team behind me, big thank you to my team, an emphasis on the critical importance of this. By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the governor's grandchildren are here. It is so important to them. They're in the front row. I expect some hard-hitting questions from them here in a second. But truly, it not only impacts them, but it will impact their grandchildren and their grandchildren after them. So we have a long journey ahead, but we have the right team. We're going to fight for Nebraska, and we're going to win. Thank you.
General Hilgers just gave us the gift of belief. We are going to win. Not a shadow of a doubt in anybody's mind behind me. His team, we are going to win. Really, really proud of Director Bradley and his leadership. He's put a lot of his life into this project on all varying aspects. And Matt Manning, there's nobody that understands it better. So turn it over to Director Bradley. Jesse, thank you.
Thank you. Morning. I'd like to start just by echoing those sentiments that were expressed by the Governor and Attorney General about the need for this action. I'm sure there are questions regarding the potential impacts this action may have on the schedule of the project, but we remain highly confident that, as Attorney General Hilgers alluded to, we will remain on a parallel track and we will continue to move forward with the design and permitting actions to keep this project on schedule. We're currently in that process, working towards completion of the 60% design, and we're well into that permitting process. We expect both of those efforts to work towards conclusion by 2028. Then we would be initiating into our construction phase with our objective to get this project online by 2032, if not before. As we've said from the beginning of this project, this is critical to the future of Nebraska. The stakeholders that are standing here today, they represent a diverse interest and set of needs across the state that we have to protect for the future. In our agency, we will continue to push forward aggressively with this project, the schedule, the elements of design, permitting, and all of those other activities that are going to be occurring on that parallel track to make sure this project is completed on time. So, thank you. I'll turn it back to you, Governor.
Thanks, Justin. You know, I think maybe the other piece that I was remiss in mentioning is there's stakeholders behind me that could speak at extraordinary length on how important surface waters are to incredible parts of the state of Nebraska that don't have the Ogallala Aquifer under it. And that's another key piece. They've been doing extraordinary work for 100 years with surface waters, and there'll be things that Jesse's team, continuing on with the design and improving the canal systems in certain areas that would benefit the Perkins Canal and then also surface water users in the Panhandle and southwest Nebraska. So those are important issues as well. So we're opening it up for questions.